Let us show you a simple old-timer's trick for keeping your cabbage fresh all through the winter. So we just got back from my grandpa's house for a fish fry. If you haven't watched the video, I'll link it above. But when we were there, my mom was tasked with making the coleslaw. She opened up the fridge and there was no cabbage. My grandpa said, we'll just go out to the garden and pick one. Well, it is February and it is snowing today, and I actually happened to look at the garden when I drove in, and it is a barren field. Okay, we're headed out to the garden. It was literally snowing just a few minutes ago. You can tell it is pretty windy and very cold.
Just cut the stem off and it'll be ready to go. Fresh cabbage in February. So here's the cabbage. Very nice, beautiful cabbage. You would have never known. Fresh cabbage right out of the garden.
So my mind was blown. You can actually have beautiful, fresh, delicious cabbage in the middle of a snowstorm in February. Mom, share the trick with us. How does it work?
First of all, be aware that cabbage is a cold weather vegetable. It loves cold weather. It does not like warm weather. So cabbage actually thrives in the cooler weather. Cabbage can survive several frosts. Towards the end of October, the first part of November, before you get into your really, really cold frosts, you like to have several frosts to go on it because it kind of helps the sugar and helps cabbage to be sweet tasting. That was a sweet cabbage.
It was delicious. I was super surprised.
You want a sweet tasting cabbage. Basically all you do is you go out and you pull the cabbage up and make sure you leave the long stem on it, and then you make a furrow in the ground and you put your cabbage in upside down. In other words, the head is down here and the stem is sticking up, and then you bury dirt over it and you leave just a little bit of the stem sticking out. Then all you have to do is find your stem, wiggle around, loosen the dirt around it, pull it out. This doesn't look like a cabbage from the store. You have this long stem, but all you have to do is cut this long stem off here and it'll look just like one from the store.
I was skeptical to say the least, but the proof is in the pudding, and that cabbage was delicious. So when did Grandpa plant his cabbage?
The cabbage is planted in the spring. Cabbage comes in very, very thick, and so you can get a lot of cabbage, but you're going to have to thin your cabbage out and you'll separate it, and you want a lot of space. You want a lot of space between your cabbages because you want big heads of cabbage, and so you will thin the cabbage out into another row. So you'll take some in one row and you leave it there and then thin into another row. And you're not going to get cabbage until August. Nice big heads of cabbage in August. And the cabbage loves it then because, at least in this area, it begins to cool down and the cabbage begins to thrive. Then by September, October, we're getting frost and the cabbage loves it.
Then you can just turn them upside down and
pull them out first.
Pull them out. How long do they last in the ground?
They're still lasting. We're still eating them.
It is February and they are just absolutely fresh.
In other words, we better hurry up and eat them. It's almost time to start planting again.
So another question I had was, does rain bother them if they're turned upside down in the ground? Does that ruin them?
No. The cabbage does get dirty, and basically we just peel off the outside leaves. It might be a little soft, the top of it. You just peel those leaves off until you get down to the hard head of cabbage. And nope, the water doesn't hurt it, the rain doesn't hurt it, the snow doesn't hurt it. It is protected by the dirt, and it doesn't take up a lot of space in a refrigerator or anything like that, and it keeps it fresh.
So as I mentioned, we had cabbage for our fish fry. My mom actually made some coleslaw. I'll let her share with you her recipe.
Thinly slice the cabbage until you get a medium-sized bowl full of cabbage. Put in about 3 tablespoons of mayonnaise, 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar, a tablespoon of honey, and about a half a teaspoon of salt. Stir it up. The mayonnaise helps it to be creamy. The vinegar gives it some tang there. The salt, of course, helps it to taste good. The honey helps bring out the sweetness. And then if you like, if it's still not good enough to you, you can sprinkle in about 1 teaspoon of sugar. Another thing that we do is we add either apples or raisins to help bring that flavor out too. Super easy. Oh, forgot. You also need to grate a carrot into it. And you can use red, green cabbage, red and green, but they're both good, especially if they're sweet.
I'm not normally someone when coleslaw is put on the table. I don't mind coleslaw, but it's not something I crave. Well, this coleslaw was delicious. Anyway, we hope you enjoyed this little trick for preserving your cabbage over the winter months so you can have fresh cabbage all throughout the winter. And we hope you like this little coleslaw recipe. Thanks so much for watching our video. Bye.